Hello?
Going on, good people. Sorry, we were looking at Twitter and we was distracted. But anyway, you should all. By the way, go follow us on Twitter at ICW_podcast. Good segue there, right? Yeah, I planned it. I did. I planned that. Yeah, I did. Shut up! You don't know I didn't plan that. I did plan that.
You just told us you didn't know, technically.
Shut up! I did plan. Anyway, we coming back with a discussion and we got a question. Is there really no personality on 205 Live? Is there? Also, how? How do we save the cruiserweights? This is a video discussion we've wanted to do for a couple weeks now. Because we've noticed that a lot of people say, especially on YouTube, Twitter, all that all these guys on 205 Live in the Cruiserweight division have no personality. They're all just moves and, flashy, move sets and stuff. I personally disagree extremely. I'm going to let DJ kind of give his thoughts first, because I'm gonna rant a little bit. But DJ, is there no personality on 205 Live?
I think I need to hear your rant first before I get no. I I think there's personality on 205 Live. I think it's not always seen because first off, I bet you the same people who say there's no personality on 205 Live only want to see the guys on 205 Live wrestle. Like they don't want to see storylines on 205 Live. Like we talked about this before, and I know you and I have discussed this especially. But like, we want 205 Live to kind of get back to its roots of wrestling. But I still think there has to be some form of storylines on the main roster. And I kind of don't want to get too much into that because I think that goes into the second question, which we're not there yet. But like, short answer is yeah. I think there is personality on 205 Live, but two, I think the people who are complaining about there not being any personality aren't, they're not allowing the personality to even be seen. I think, we've seen a lot of guys on the 205 Live roster, like Akira Tozawa, I'm not Akira Tozawa, but more so Arya Davari, D. Brian Kendrick, obviously Enzo, Drew Gulak with his new gimmick, Jack Gallagher, obviously. Let's see who else. Neville, obviously Neville. Noam Dar, Noam Dar, Rich Swan, Tony Nese, and I would even say TJP especially with more of his heel, with more of his heelish type character. You've seen a lot more personality from them. But I feel like a lot of times I don't know if fans allow themselves to see the personality because they're too busy looking for wrestling, if that makes sense. I know it sounds weird, but like I think they're too busy, wanting the great in-ring product that they won't allow themselves to actually see the personalities and the characters that are put on by these great in-ring competitors.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking through the 205 Live roster, and honestly, except for maybe Grand Metalik and trying to think, to an extent, Lince Dorado, I think every other person we've seen their personality. And I think everyone does have a personality. And guys, like I said, like Grand Metalik and Lince Dorado, they don't need the personality. They, show it in the ring and in their, attire and mask and everything. But I think also, like you said, the fans are just looking for wrestling, and it's weird because they say there's no personality, but to show personality, you have to have backstage segments. You have to have promos. You have to have something. Even some kind of banter during the match. But when we get too much of that, then fans complain about that. It's like you can't have, you know, you can't have it both ways. You can't complain that there's not enough personality, and then when they show you the personality, you say, "Oh, there's not enough wrestling." You just you kind of it's a give and take kind of a thing. And I know we complain when WWE obviously has too much promos and too much backstage, but if you get it right, they can show personality and in ring. But I would say, like I said, all these guys, we've seen their personality. It may not be a ton, but we've seen, I think, every single competitor's or, member of the roster's personality in some form or another. But I guess that kind of brings us to how do you save the Cruiserweight division at this point? I mean, a lot of fans have just given up on it. I think to an extent WWE has given up on it, which for me, and I think DJ too, we don't want that. We want there to be a Cruiserweight division in WWE. We want there to be more than just the WWE title and barely their tag team division and women's division. We want there to be another division somewhere in there, but it's like, what do they do to save this? I mean, they've brought in, obviously they brought in Enzo, which I think helped out in a way. Then they brought Kalisto in. I still think they need to push all these guys that they signed from the Cruiserweight Classic. Look how popular the Cruiserweight Classic was. You don't need to bring already signed talent into 205 Live. You just need to push the guys in 205 Live from the Cruiserweight Classic. That's all they really need to do. Push them. Give each of them a title run. I don't know how much more simply you can put it. I mean, obviously there's other things they could do, but DJ, what are your thoughts on how to save the Cruiserweights?
Well, I'm going to disagree with with one of your points there about not bringing other guys in, because I feel like the Cruiserweight division saved Neville's WWE career for a little bit. It salvaged a lot of what was already there. A lot of that we don't really know what to do with him. A lot of that, where does he fit in? A lot of that, maybe even Vince saying, I don't think he's a world championship guy. Not quite sure if he's mid-card material guy. Not to say that the Cruiserweight division is any lower or any higher than anything else, but like it is its own thing. And I think so. I kind of disagree with you on that regard, because I think, if who knows what would have been going on with Neville if he wouldn't have been in the Cruiserweight division.
I'm not saying that, don't bring them in. I'm just saying don't just completely depend on them. You know what I mean? But
yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I think right now WWE is so dependent on basically, bringing someone into something and then pushing them way too fast or pushing them straight to the title. We've seen it, we've seen it a lot. And it's kind of a little bit of it is the fans' fault to a certain degree. Because, you see these guys come up from NXT and the first thing they do is push them straight to the title. They push them straight to this big, huge push. I know you got to make them look strong, but still, I think there's something, there's got to be, something's got to give when it comes down to it. And that's kind of how it's been with the Cruiserweight division as well. And the thing about the Cruiserweight division, there's only one thing going for the Cruiserweight division, and that's the championship. So I feel like that's one of the things, too, is like, you bring Enzo in, and like immediately he's the champion. You bring Kalisto in, and immediately he's the champion. You bring Neville in, and immediately he's the champion. And you're not allowing these guys who did kind of make their name in the Cruiserweight division, or make their name on the Indies, and then come back and make their name for some of the other WWE fans or the guys who even never got a chance to see them. in the Cruiserweight Classic, you didn't, I don't think they did it. Like you said, I don't think they allowed those guys to really see, to really show what they could do. As far as the question of how to save the Cruiserweights, I'm gonna take this from two sides. I'm gonna take this from the pulling it completely off the main roster side, and I'm gonna take this from keeping it on the main roster side because I think you can do. I think you can do either one. I think you just gotta with one you gotta change completely how you're booking it. With both, you kind of gotta change completely how you're booking it. I think you can first you can. I think this is the easy way out. You can take it off the main roster completely and have it be its own entity on the network, whether it be pre-recorded or you have it live, whatever you want to do. I feel like if they start doing stuff only on the network, they're going to start pre-recording it. I don't think they would do something to where they would have a live show somewhere far off, for 205 Live too. So I feel like if you pull it off the network, you basically go back to your original format of, it being based on wrestling. You go back to that original how it was in the Cruiserweight Classic, which it was very much so based on wrestling, and all the storylines were basically told in the ring. The heels were shown in the ring. The faces were shown in the ring. You figured out who you liked and who you didn't like in the ring. And I feel like if they pull 205 Live, well, not pull 205 Live, but keep 205 Live, just put it on the network, and it's its own weekly show on its own. I think they would be able to have more storylines, and maybe and I think too what would be smart for them to do is if they're going to completely pull it off the main roster, which is no issue. I think they would still have to basically. I think what would be a smart idea is when you have your specials. So whether that be maybe an NXT takeover, you have you know one or two 205 live matches, one or two cruiserweight matches on that card. Or if you want to give the UK, that UK roster a little bit more time, a little bit more of some time on the network, you do a special where it's like a combined special with the 205 live roster and the UK roster. That's what I would do. Now, and I don't know if you want to chime in before I get to my second half, which is if you keep it on the main roster.
Well, I'm going to disagree with your first point of taking it completely off the main roster because, for one, I think they already have issues with trying to get people to sign. They still have issues with trying to get people to sign up for the network. There's some people that just don't want to sign up for the network. And I don't think that's a good way to get people into something that they're trying to build. Because there's just people that have the network and people that are just not interested in it. And you're not going to get to the people that are just not interested in the network. I would keep it on the main roster, but I would blend it in. I wouldn't, you look at like the tag team division. When they have a tag team match, they don't change the ropes. They don't have tag team division on the ring apron. They don't have tag team division on the Titantron. Like, you don't need. We know it's the Cruiserweight division. We know it's a tag team division. Just let it blend in and let it be its own. Just be a division on the main roster. You don't need to, we're not stupid. We know, different divisions. I think that's one of the things that fans don't like is, why does it have to be so pointed out that this is the Cruiserweight division? This is 205 Live. I would get rid of 205 Live too. Just blend it all in to the main roster. Give it equal time on the main roster. I mean, it worked originally for the Cruiserweight division. Why not do the same thing?
Yeah, and that was kind of a point I was going to make when I said, because I did want to look at it on both spectrums, like because I think some people have an idea of this is how you could do it. Some people have an idea of keep it on the main roster or not keep it on the main roster. That's why I wanted to kind of see both ends. I agree with you too. I feel like yes, blend it in because I think right now it comes off a little bit too gimmicky. and that's pretty much an issue. Um, so I mean, when it comes to keeping it on the main roster, yeah. First off, yes, it's its own division, but it doesn't have to be, this is the cruiserweight division. Welcome to, like we don't need new commentators for it. We don't need. I mean, you can do new commentators if you just want to have like a different sound for it. That's not necessarily an issue to me. The commentary is not necessarily an issue because I do think it makes it sound different, I guess. But like having it be its own thing, I think is kind of weird. Um, I think like you said, I think they should definitely blend it in, make it that thing. But I think too, um, I think they should do what we felt like they should have done at the beginning of the brand split when they brought in the cruiserweight division. Is I think you have to put it on its own show, not like 205 Live, but its own show. Like you have to put Raw. For example, you want to keep it on Raw, put it on Raw. You want to put the women's division on SmackDown, put the entire women's division on SmackDown. So because then that makes fans say, well, what's different about Raw? Well, it's the cruiserweight division. So now I want to watch the cruiserweight division because well, SmackDown doesn't have it. It's not plastered all over SmackDown. So now and I feel like that would make people want to watch it too if it was only it is technically on one brand, but I think kind of like you said, having it spread out between 205 Live and spread out between a couple of segments here and there on Raw, I think does hurt it. I think that's an issue as well. I think is just because it's too much. It's almost too much. Like I know we don't get like an hour of the cruiserweights or something like that, and then we're getting an hour of the cruiserweights on 205 Live, but it almost feels that way. Like it almost feels like overexposure.
And it also helps to get the main roster fans into like the storylines, because right now they have a cruiserweight match on Raw, but if you're not paying attention to 205 Live, you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea these storylines.
Well, and I think too, I don't think they should have let NXT be the lone wrestling show on the network, because that's what makes NXT special. I think with 205 Live, maybe make it like a cruiserweight spotlight. Like you pick like that, the biggest match from the week, and you have who's the freaking Big Joseph and Nigel McGuinness talk about it or something. Like I think that would do more for the cruiserweight division than having 205 Live, another wrestling show, that's dedicated to a division that's on the main roster. You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't, like logically it doesn't make sense to have 205 Live anyway. Like you don't have tag team wrestling live. So like like you don't have universal title spotlight live watch wrestling university. Like you don't have any like other divisions on the network that's like blah blah blah. I don't know. Like to me, I feel like it almost comes off, as overexposure. I feel like they like I said would be better off just having Nigel McGuinness and Vic Joseph talk about what's going on in the cruiserweight division. Kind of keep you updated, because I think WWE does. One thing speaking of the network that would help the network is WWE has to have more programming that's up to date. And I don't want to get on a network tangent, but like if they add this type of thing to the network, something that like discusses it, because I do like This Week in Wrestling. I really like that show. I don't get to watch it as much as I used to, but I really like This Week in Wrestling. But if they added like a cruiserweight show that just kind of talks about what's going on in the cruiserweight division, or whatever, I think that would be a good thing too. Like I feel like there's not enough live up to date programming. Like I turn on the network and it's like the Monday Night Wars. And if you're like me and you've watched all the episodes, do you really want to watch them again?
Yeah.
Well, but no, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you do. Yeah, I mean, you're right, but like, I don't know. I feel like, and I've said this before, and it may be just me doing producing now, and like, I go through shows and I'm like, bruh, like, I really don't want to play this show again. I played this show like 100 times. So like, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, I think from a network standpoint, just to get on a small slight tangent here, because I do like watching the network in my spare time. Sometimes just turning on the live network and just kind of letting it run. Um, I feel like that oftentimes they play the same thing, and I feel like if they had something that was, current but somewhat semi-live or current like discussion type thing, I think it would be better. Like I feel like they've kind of given up on like the new programming for the network.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too much into that now, but I do feel like like I feel like that's something too, like with the network. Before you had your schedules, you had these different weeks. Like it was WCW week, and there was ECW week. Shoot, they don't honestly play enough retro pay-per-views. When it comes down to having, for example, Survivor Series, they play a couple, but they don't like. They should have like a day dedicated to just playing pay-per-view, and they don't.
For that, like I definitely agree with that. I think personally they should have had or should have a day dedicated to Halloween Havoc. I mean, I think it was like 20 years since the first Halloween Havoc or something like that. It was something was this year having to do with Halloween Havoc, and with it being, October.
Yeah.
But one thing I was gonna kind of disagree with you on, I agree that you should have put the cruiserweights just on Raw, but I wouldn't put the women or the women's division just on one show. What I would do is I would put the tag team division on one show, because they struggle enough with the tag team division on both shows. Just put them on one show.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. With you on that now. Thinking about it, because I think the women's division, ironically enough, has more depth, or at least shows more depth than the tag team division. Like we see a tag team division, it's basically whoever's going for the title, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like knowing people these days, if you put the women on one show, fans of the other show are going to be like, why aren't the women on here? Are the women not good enough? Blah, blah. Like, you're just going to open yourself up for a can of worms that you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Where I think if they put the tag team division on just one show, it would be easier for them to book. And maybe we'd get a better tag team division, which we've been waiting for.
Well, I don't think it's even that the tag team division is really that bad. I think one of the biggest issues with the tag team division is they just don't showcase it enough. Like
Yeah.
like we've said, like the New Day versus the Usos has been really good, but you want to see other teams. And that's that kind of brings it full circle back to the cruiserweight division. Like I love watching Neville go against his challenger, but like there's these other feuds in 205 Live that I would love to see on a pay-per-view.
Yeah. Like, I mean, well, we ain't gonna get Neville and Tony Nese anymore.
True. Even like back when we had Brian Kendrick and Jack Gallagher, or when we had, what was it? Was it, Jack Gallagher's I forfeit match. Stuff like that. Like where you're ending a feud. I feel like you shouldn't be ending a feud on 205 Live.
Well, and one thing I like about that is the evolution of that feud to now they're a team, Jack
Yeah.
Gallagher and Brian Kendrick.
Yeah.
So I definitely, if the main roster was more, saw more of that, I think they would really get into it. But like
Yeah.
I said, when you only see one match on Raw and you don't pay attention to 205 Live, you have no idea what's going on, so you don't care. But anyway, any other thoughts on either topic in this video before we go
Um.
too long?
Yeah. Not necessarily. I just. I mean, like we said, like I don't think it's the cruiserweight division is a lost like hope. Or something that can be lost. That there's multiple things they can do to, and I think we both kind of said it. There's multiple things that we can do, or they can do. I guess we can't do anything. There's multiple things that they can do, to kind of revamp the cruiserweight division and help it out and make it back to kind of what it was.
Yeah, like do another Cruiserweight Classic. Do it. Or do another tournament in general. Do it. Do it. Do it now. But anyway, that was our discussion. Leave your comments below in the I'm just gonna say the comment section. That's DJ's thing to say in the description. I'm not gonna take that from him. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be a good guy. So leave your comments in the comment section. Follow us on Twitter at ICW_podcast. Let us know on there. Tweet us, slide in our DMs. Do all of that fun stuff. If you haven't already, I don't know why you haven't. You just maybe you've been living under a rock, so that's why this is the only time you've seen our show. But hit that subscribe button, hit the like, hit the dislike. I don't know. Share it with your friends. Share it on Facebook.
I heard the dislike button broke, so don't hit that.
I mean, you could try, but then unhit it and then hit the like button. Don't do that. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Twitter. Share it on Instagram. Share it on the Snapchat. Share it on the email. You can still do that. You can send it in an email to a friend. They open it. They watch it. They a new fan. So you just got us a new fan, and you're a new fan, and yeah, stuff and things, which is a video coming out very soon. We've said that so many times, that video ain't never gonna get made. But we will see you on the flippity dippity. Oh yeah.